Hey guys, happy Tuesday. It's day 2. I'm going to let a few of you get on for the next 30 seconds or so. Goodness gracious, I got dings happening. When you do get on, hi. Just let me know where you're from, okay? And then we'll dig in a bit to have some interaction, of course. Day 2 is all about your anchor. It's all about your purpose. Your hair looks so pretty. That's because I showered. I shower every day, but it's just fresh hair. All right. So today is all about your anchor. It's all about your purpose. And we're really going to dig into your body a bit more. Like, what are the parts of your body? Because when we think of body, we think of physical, and then we feel like there's kind of a disconnect. So if you're just joining us, let us know where you're from, and then let us know if this is your first time, if day 2 is your first time live, or if you were on yesterday. I highly suggest to watch all of them. Sometimes it won't happen that you can be in order. I get that, but they're very, the framework is here. The method is here to actually go in order so that we can really hit mindset first, then get into that emotional space, purpose, what you hang your hat on, body, connection, intuition, and then we get into fears and being fearless tomorrow, and then creating your plan and actually doing the work on Friday. So we're going to dig in. Just a few updates or a few details, I guess, not necessarily updates if you haven't been on with us before. I'm Dr. Tiffany Johnson. I'll be your host, your guide for today. Well, and every day, I suppose. But the whole week. And my team, Lindy, Jackie, and Jesse, are here. Say hi to everybody, to answer questions, not only in this stream, but on in the Facebook group all the time. If you ever have any questions, you can always DM them and ask additional things to them on, I don't know, getting more information on what's next. So I'm going to give the mom warning again because the dogs are just freaking out, and there's just no stopping when they freak out. So if you hear dogs barking, if you hear bells slamming on the door and barking at my door, that's why. I try to warn my family to get them some treats or something, but it doesn't always work. All of this works better if you're not distracted. I talked to a few people yesterday afterwards, and they're like, man, I can totally understand why not having your kids or your phone or your tabs open would be really, really beneficial, because the information is comprehensive, it is deep, and it can be emotional. And I think we're able to be more emotional when we have space, when we actually have our door closed and locked. It's kind of like setting that boundary of this is your space, this is your 1 hour that you get alone. And for some people, that's all they get every single day, because there are so many things going on. And so try to be disciplined with that time, whether you're here live, whether you're here in the replay. If you are checking on the replay, by the way, when you say where you're from, because I still want you to say where you're from, just hashtag it replay, so that we, sometimes you can tell on the timestamp, but sometimes not. And when there's so many comments, it's hard to keep track of. We want to make sure to acknowledge that you are here. All right. Is that it? Yes, I think so. So if you weren't here yesterday, I'm Dr. Tiffany Johnson, CEO, owner, chiropractor at Healing Touch Chiropractic for the last 15 years, and founder of the Aligned Life Coaching, Consulting, Mastermind, and Program. Exciting stuff. I have been high volume holistic family practice for 15 and a half years, I think it's just about. One of the highest volume solo doc offices in the world. And in that volume for all 15 years. So I think what I love about that is I haven't always been consistent in my life. And that is the one thing that I have been consistent on. I've been consistent with my purpose, with my passion, and helping others transform so they can get to where they want to go. And so today, when we talk about anchor and purpose, it's very near and dear to my heart because it hasn't always been something that I've trusted. And up until the last 12 to 15 years, probably 10 to 12 more so, I was challenged in a few ways that I was like, I have the answers, but where are they? And how do I find them? And how do I feel them? And when I'm off track, how do I get back on track? Like, those are the things that I really have learned in the last 10 years. And so my practice is very much intuitive and it's very much spiritual. And I understand a lot of chiropractors aren't like that. So I experience and I see things in the body that many don't, or many haven't experienced before. And that's all part of that transformative process. So that's really the foundation for me talking about this, because from a mindset standpoint, we tend to think mindset is logical. Obviously, now when we recap, it's not logical. But beyond mindset, beyond really tuning into what you think and how you behave and how you act and all of the things that are associated with you, many times we forget how to listen to our guide, our master voice, and that's your intuition, and that's your anchor. So we get to just dig in. Hi, guys. Hi, Jafra. Yay, this is day 2 for you. Steffi, day 2. Yay. Okay. Recaps from yesterday. In your little workbook, remember, we got workbook. Print it. Once again, there will be time that you might need to flip your sheet over or grab some printer paper and do a little bit of work as I dig in halfway through about. But recaps, the topics that we talked about yesterday was mindset and the difference between mind and your brain. Head trash, what to release, what's telling you lessons, all of the 4,700 thoughts that are likely negative and repetitive, and values, how you get to the place to change who you are to fit your dream instead of shrink down your dream to fit your average, mediocre, sucky situation. Ha! Okay. I wanted to comment on this, and I'm going to, over the weekend and early next week, I'm going to be doing more Q&As and answering some of the questions that came up. There were a ton of questions yesterday, and not only questions, but like questions within the comments that you guys had that I was like, oh my gosh, these are awesome topics. The one that I really want to touch on first, well, the only one I'm going to touch on first is, I understand we may have 4,700 negative thoughts that are repetitive every day, but that doesn't mean they're all bad for us. And I don't ever like to use good or bad, but what I don't want to happen is for you to think like, oh my God, I'm thinking negatively again, and not listen to the thought. This is discernment though. It's understanding it. What kind of thought is coming in? Is it helping me? Or do I just need to say, buzz off? I don't want to listen to that. I got bigger plans here. Is it ego chirping? Is it old patterns because of experiences and memories? Or is it actually something that's trying to get your attention to bring light to it? And I'm going to talk about this a ton tomorrow because it's all about fears and it's all about working through them and walking through them. But not being positive is not what I'm saying. That's not the answer necessarily. It's understanding what the thought means. So where does it come from? Why is it there? What is it helping me do? What is it protecting me from? And you're going to start to recognize categories of thoughts that are just playing tricks on your mind, or that are like, hello, birdie, like you need to pay attention. I'm trying to get your attention to work through this thought process so that you can clear it. That is the key. So I wanted to touch on that before you get through day 4, and now you're working on additional things and more mindset, and now you're kind of confused on positive, negative, because it's really not about, you could have 6,000 positive thoughts every day, but they're not true. They're fake. And now you have, you don't even know the difference between what it's trying to tell you and what it's trying to help you be protected from. Okay. So just write your key recaps in there. I think when we do workshops like this and trainings, it's not about more information, guys. It's about utilizing the information you get, figuring out what really is talking to you and doing something about it. So whatever I said for the recaps, don't write that down if it doesn't resonate. Like, what actually resonated yesterday? What was the thing that was like, holy crap, I need more of this in my life? Those are the things you recap, because conscious thought is only 5% of our brain, and poof, it's going to be gone, right? That's why, I don't know, what is it, 74%? When you write down goals, you're 74% more likely to achieve them. Don't quote me. I don't even know if that's the right one, but I think it's right around there. Because when you hear it, you hear me talk, you write it, and then you go back and then you experience it. You get to sift it through your strainer, your life, your filter. That's when you start to create it as an unconscious program pattern that can start to show up in your life every single day. Okay. Let's see where we're at. In Anchor, I got some fill in the blanks, and I'm going to read them to you. And then we'll review a little bit what that actually means to you. So 3 things. An anchor is 1, something that grounds you in yourself, mind and body. So something that grounds you in yourself, comma, mind and body. The second description is something that you can hold on to when you feel overwhelmed. Number 2 is something you can hold on to when you feel overwhelmed. And number 3, something that makes you feel calm, at ease, and more sure of yourself. So 3 things an anchor is: something that grounds you in yourself, comma, mind and body. 2, something you can hold on to when you feel overwhelmed. And 3, something that makes you feel calm, at ease, and more sure of yourself. An anchor is supposed to work for you. It's not supposed to sink you. So let's think of an anchor on a boat. An anchor on a boat keeps you where you're at, right? So you don't float into shore. So it is there to move you forward through the stuff. It's your internal response to a trigger. So it moves you forward through stuff, or it will sink you. You get to decide now, and I want you to actually write it down. Is it positive or negative for you? Is your anchor, do you have an anchor? Do you have something you can come back to when you feel stressed and overwhelmed? Do you have something that's like, yep, I'm good, I'm okay? Do you have something that if you're feeling unworthy and deserved, not confident, if you feel like you're stuck in your comfort zone, do you have something that you can come back to that will propel you to that next level? Or is your something sinking you and keeping you small, keeping you in this little tiny bubble? So if you can just, yeah, I think there's probably, Jesse or Lindy, if you can just put right in the anchors. Oh, you did. Good. Steph, just so you see that, that Jesse posted. So for you, just determine, is it a yes or a no? Is it moving you forward, or is it keeping you where you are? That it's all just evidence, guys. This is all about, okay, this is not a deep topic right now. For some of you, it may be the first time you've ever heard it, but I'm not going deep in the topic. We're kind of trickling the surface for a few of these, and then I choose which one I want to go deep at in terms of what do I really need you to walk away from or walk away with. So this anchor work, intuitive work, is very much surface. I want you to understand what it is. I want you to understand the principle, the philosophy of it, how it shows up in your body, in your life. Now we can dig into the next stages. That's also what all the stuff I do in my programs is. All right, so we take anchor work and we figure out what that is, or how can you get one, or how can you create one, or where do you feel out of control? What external situation is triggering you? Then we start connecting that. For training, I need to make sure you understand what it is so that when I refer to it, you have an idea. Okay, so that's anchor work. Intuition is one of my favorite things. I'm just going to give a story, and I'm going to, don't mind me, but I need to get this printed. So in chiropractic school, it was the first time that we were working on people. So how chiropractic works, I apologize for my printer, is it's set up into trimesters. And I had 2 babies in chiropractic school. So school totally wasn't my priority at all, like not really at all. I went when I needed to. I jumped through a lot of hoops. I had a tendency of cutting corners and just doing the minimum that I needed to do to get done. And surprisingly, I finished school. I know. But halfway through is when you start to work on technique. And it's when you start to put into what you learned about the body, about anatomy and all the things into play. And you practice on each other, obviously. I mean, I practice on my family all the time. Poor people. But I remember the day it was a 1.5 years in, and I had already had Callan. So I was already adjusting her and adjusting kids and kind of working on my family a little bit. You know, you just start being curious and doing that. And I remember there were 6 or 7 people around this person on a table, and we were supposed to evaluate the person. And I got to the person's feet. So everybody went before me and they said, oh, feeling this and this and this and this, and this is what I would adjust and this is how I would do it. And I got to this guy's feet and I said, well, I would adjust. Da-da. And everyone looked at me like, what are you talking about? Like, you don't even need to feel his body. And it was the first moment. I mean, now I can go through so many moments as a little girl and all the way through, but it was my defining moment to know that I didn't need all the external things to tell me what the internal system, mine and that person's system, was actually telling me. And when I figured out how to clear my system and listen to theirs, that's totally my X factor, and that's my gift. I had no idea that was even a thing. So I think when we go through intuition, we go like work through some of those pivotal moments of when was it that I just knew? Like, I didn't need to ask any questions, or I could look at someone and have an idea of what they were struggling with, or maybe I felt the need to reach out to my friend. And the next day she said, man, you have no idea the impact that you made calling me yesterday. Whatever it is, there are those defining moments that help you trust the messages that you're getting from your own body. So on that next page, when we talk about our main voice, your main voice is your intuition. And whatever that looks like, if it's God's voice, if it's your spiritual, whatever it is, that's an anchor. Like, that's one of my anchors. When I feel like scattered and flustered and like kind of out of my body, it's like instantly, it takes me 3 seconds to reset. Now, it takes me longer than 3 seconds a lot of times, but in the moment, I've been doing it for a long time. And I trust that when I need to reset, I need to reset. If that means that you have to go to the bathroom, or that you have to go outside for a quick walk, or you have to just say, hey, I need a mama timeout. Whatever the case may be, create enough space so that you can allow yourself to feel. So we're going to do a connection exercise. I suppose some people yesterday called it a meditation or breathing exercise, but I feel this is the essence, one of the essences to really coming back into your body. the majority of people are disconnected. I describe it as like, hey, what's that game where you got heads and bodies and legs and toes and like they're all over the place? I just say like your head is here and your body's here and they're just not connected at all. And the majority of people, like when I say that, I imagine you're like, oh yeah, like I totally know what that feels like when I'm disconnected. Like there is no flow there. I'm not grounded. I cannot even feel what's happening in there because you're disconnected. So these little things that we did yesterday and today are meant to reconnect, not only in the moment, but when you have space. So if you have your morning power hour, if you have your hour before bed that you wind down, do something that reminds you of what connection feels like. Okay, so we're going to close our eyes if you can, if you're not driving. Feet on the floor, and we're going to start with that breath again. So the first step of breathing is just awareness. And observation. And initially, our breaths are typically a bit more shallow. And as we continue to breathe, even in 20 seconds, you'll start to notice how things slow down. Not only your breath, but your brain. Not only your brain, but your heart rate. You'll notice if you have pain or discontent in your body, it starts to simmer down. So as we notice our breath, as we observe it, make those breaths a bit longer. If you're able to breathe in for 4 seconds, 4 counts. On the exhale, I want you to do the same. So 4 is a bit too deep. Start with 2, but just find the rhythm. 2 in and 2 out. And if you do breath work continuously, you can get to 6 to 8 to 10 to 12 really fast. This in and of itself is a reset. This in and of itself could be your anchor. And the more you do it, the more consistent you are, the more you can do it really fast. And you can change your state. You instantly can tell when that brain calms, heart rate lowers, and breath slows and deepens. So this is going to be a bit of an intuitive exercise now. I'm going to ask you a question or give you the statement, and you are going to ask yourself the question 3 times. So continue your breath. Note if you just started thinking when I gave you instructions. So come back to calm, come back to breath. So the question is, what does my life need right now? I want you to ask that question to yourself. Pause and ask it 2 more times. So a total of 3 times and 3 pauses at the end of every question. So once again, the question is, what does my life need right now? The answer is not in your brain. So focus on your breath and ask yourself the question. So let's take a few big breaths together again. And when you open your eyes, I want you to grab your pen and your paper. And whether it's in that notes section or you flip a page open so it doesn't have the structure of lines, it's up to you. I want you to draw a symbol of what you felt when you asked yourself, what does my life need right now? So here's the deal. You didn't fail if you couldn't do it. There is no right or wrong. A symbol can be anything you want it to be. It can be a sign. It can be what you saw. It can be what you've smelled. It could be what you felt. It could be anything. And when we're looking to expand our intuition, trust that what you feel is right. Intuition is our main voice. And just like anything, we need to strengthen it. We need to get better at it. We need to practice. And this is just practice. That's it. It's a means to be able to come back to, hey, I want to try that exercise again, and I want to see what comes up. And if you do it the next day, some different symbol comes up. Your discernment to figure out what it means is all based on you. So if you draw a symbol and you're like, oh my gosh, I have never in my whole entire life seen anything like that before, you just let it be. You just let it sit there and you write about what it means. You write about what you think it means. Or maybe you're like, I don't know, that was crazy. I'm just going to let that sit for a while. And tonight I'm going to look at that picture. I'm going to do a little bit of a breath work so I can connect myself. And now I'm going to write about what it actually means. Because we have everything we need inside of us. But we also have stress and we have trauma and we have emotions and we have all these things that are muddling the connection between our brain, our heart, our gut, and our oneness. So now we see life as different, as separate. We see our physical health separate than our emotional health. We see our spiritual health totally different than all of it. But that's actually not right. That's not real. It is one. We are one. So we're going to dig into, and this is where we're going to spend a bit more time. We're going to dig into the 4 bodies of your body. And although we're not going to go super deep, we're going deeper than what I just showed you on Anchor Intuition and what you experienced there. But that's the foundation for now being able to feel into all these other parts. Any kind of meditation, journal, breathing helps you get better at listening to your body and finding where calm is. Because where calm is, healing is. And now when we look at making decisions like we talked about yesterday, and we look at busting through fear, and we look at creating our dreams in all of the things, this is what we get to listen to if we're quiet enough. Because intuition is the quietest, loudest voice there is. It's the whisper, it's the nudge, it's the poke. Stressy Susie brain, not so good. That will not allow you to feel what intuition or spirit or God or whatever is trying to tell you. So it takes practice. It's not I can't meditate. All I do is think. It's not I don't have any intuition. I just question myself. It is a trained thing that I'm helping you guys see that it's not I have it or I don't. We all are created with it. And that was our only means of expressing to the world and sensing the world. And now we're in this stage of life that we don't even use it anymore. Okay, so we're going to talk about the 4 bodies. Physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. These 4 bodies are one. I know it's super confusing sometimes. These 4 bodies work together and are never separate from each other. This is a deep topic. And I'm not going to bring you through the 10x exercises to get there. But just thinking about everything being connected is enough to change your brain. That how you think actually affects your emotions, affects your physical health, and it totally affects your spiritual health. And you could say that about every single one of them. Every single thing we've talked about is built on the next one. It's like that bottom layer of the foundation. We need that to be strong first. That's this. That's the body, the mindset. Now we get to build on it. So when we think of physical, these are all the physical things. And I did not leave enough notes. You're going to have to probably flip some things over. Yes, flip them over, please. So physical, thinking of physical health. This is the way that others can possibly see if we're healthy or not. Think of weight. Think of black circles under your eyes. Think of skin issues. Think of depression. And I mean the depression that you can see from a mile away. That's the external thing. So we're going to talk about physical, internal, and external. It is your body. It's your exercise routine. It's, do you take vitamins? Do you eat good food? Do you feel like you're a little bit overweight? Are you getting enough sleep? Do you have energy? Okay. That's the physical world. The mental and emotional bodies affect the physical. And the physical is the accumulation of mental and emotional. So now we can see as we go through this, I want you to kind of like take a scan of every one of these topics. I want you to think, Am I balanced in this body? So think about everything that I just talked about in physical. Am I balanced in this body? And knowing that mental and emotional accumulation is what really controls physical is a completely different way to see this, right? So now we have emotional. And after this, I'm going to open it up for some questions. Emotional emotions. That's about it. Memories are stored as emotions. When I talk about trauma and stress, it's created from memories that are now stored in your body in some way. If they're stored as emotions, if they're stored as mental images, if they're stored in your spiritual system, a disconnect, a mistrust, distrust. Memories are stored in our system. This is where, when I'm adjusting people, when I'm working with people, I'm working in all four of these systems. Some people may think I'm doing the physical work. Nah, it's just my means to get through to the mental, to the emotional, and then the biggest is the spiritual. That's the one that is difficult to understand. So emotional. I don't know if you've heard the difference between EQ and IQ, but emotional quotient versus intelligence quotient. Is that what it is? IQ, we all have an IQ score, right? EQ is how emotionally intelligent are you? And understanding that change happens when we upgrade emotional intelligence. Change happens when we do not avoid how we feel and we do not avoid what that emotion is trying to tell us, but we accept it, we allow it, and then we either release it or we process it through. When people talk about emotional baggage, it shows up as that emotion, but it's stored in your emotional body, in your mental body, in your spiritual body, and in your physical body. Your physical body may be the one that is blinking the red light. That may be the one like, oh my gosh, I've had migraines for 10 years. And instantly I say, what happened 10 years ago? What happened before that to create a disconnect between your brain and the rest of your body? So this is not my framework, but this is exactly what I've been doing for 15 years in and on people. Is seeing how can we bring ourselves back to oneness and pay attention to what all the parts are that are talking to us. So the mental system, I'm just going to break for one hot second. Do you guys have questions? Okay, I think I'm just going to keep on rolling then. If you have them, just post them here. Lindy and Jesse are keeping track of them. All right, the mental system. Mindset, thoughts on a daily basis. It's everything that you think processes through your mental body. I have notes because I had totally forgotten some of this stuff. The mental body is the easiest to notice, the fastest to change, and the most difficult to stop. So easiest to notice. You notice when you have mental fog, right? Brain fog. You notice when your brain is going a mile a minute. You notice when you can't figure out what to say. You notice if you're starting to have an anxiety attack. You notice when you're starting to have crazy thoughts, right? So it's the easiest to notice, the fastest to change when we do the work, when you have your anchors when you can feel what's happening, like instantly it's like, whoa, what just triggered here? Now I can change it, but it's the hardest to stop from happening. So what that means is the trigger creates something, an internal response in you. You can change it, but it's the hardest to stop. That, the mental, so many times, and I think this is part of what I've been totally fascinated of in working with people is, especially mentally, let's just say anxiety and depression, it is a mindset that it is just that. If you can fix my anxiety, I will be happy. Nope, not true. If you can fix my depression, I'll be happy. It's not true, because it runs deep. And yes, awareness is key. But the symptom not being there is not going to make you happy. And as we know just from yesterday and today, we know that when that mental impulse goes off, there's so many things that follow. So if there's trauma and if there's stress, and that's the trigger, that's what needs to be healed, is the trauma and stress around the memory. And that memory, that doesn't need to be, when I say trauma, I don't necessarily mean like big stuff, big health issues, or a car accident, or death, or rape, or loss. It's not necessarily that. There's many different types of trauma. It can just be chronic micro trauma, like not believing in yourself, and all of a sudden you got all the time. It could be one thing that happens, that you maybe showed up for your job and that day they let you go, and now you have post-traumatic stress for even starting, like wanting to interview again or getting a new job, and you don't trust what people say now because at one point somebody said something somewhere that has created this cascade of things. So the mental body is one of the biggest parts of this, and it's one that we totally avoid. Even just talking about mindset yesterday, the awareness of how we think, what we think, why we think it, is imperative to moving through and then staying connected and achieving everything that you want to achieve. So the other thing in mental, it reinforces the emotional state. That reinforces the emotion. Think of the trigger. It's the memory that happens before the trigger, before the emotion that happens. So we have to go back to the memory and go back to the experience, not fix the symptom. It's just the same as going to your local doctor and saying, I have XYZ symptom and I'm going to take XYZ medication. Now we don't have any of those symptoms. We're good. And now you say, why am I not happy? Why do I not feel worthy? Why do I not know my purpose? Because you haven't went to the mental part. And if you haven't went to the mental part, you definitely haven't felt into the spiritual part. So spiritual is the embodiment of all three. When people tell me I'm totally different after doing this work or after getting adjusted, that's why, is because the spiritual system has shifted because all the other bodies have aligned. So the framework works. It's about stepping back into your body and being connected, and now knowing what the rest of your body is trying to tell you. This sounds exhausting. It sounds like, oh my God, every day do I actually need to? That's not what it is. It's, when we talked yesterday, when you see something, you can't unsee it anymore. When you learn something, you can't unlearn it anymore. So when we know these things, you can't avoid it. Or if you do avoid it, you're going to get knocks on your door like, hello, you know this. I'm still talking to you. The nudges become a little bit stronger maybe. That spiritual system is intimate relationships, friend relationships, social circles, family circles, Everything, how you show up. Now, the biggest piece of this is, are you in every single area of your life? And if you're not, we have a disconnect in the spiritual system, the spiritual body. And now that we know it's the embodiment of all three of the other ones, if we have a disconnect in the spiritual body, we have a disconnect everywhere. And that's when you feel like your head is over here and your body's over here. You can't process anything. You're overwhelmed. You're depressed. You're anxious. You're content. You feel guilty when you say what you mean. You want to please your freaking neighbor who you don't even freaking know. That's why. Because you're not in your body. And when we're not connected, we don't make decisions from a connected space. We make decisions from a disconnected space, which is anger, guilt, resentment, fear, blame, judgment, all of the things. And if you have all those, and if you don't have the first ones that I say, how in the hell could you ever achieve the dream you actually want to achieve? Or maybe you don't want to. Because you can't have both of them. You have to step in and be willing to go, be willing to commit in order to get there. Tomorrow we're going to talk about comfort zone. It's probably my ultimate. Well, I say there's a lot of topics I love, but I really, really, really love comfort zones. I love talking about comfort zones. They are the most dangerous place you could ever stay. So if you say you want X, Y, and Z, you want this achievement, you want this result, you want this, and you're not doing the work, then you don't want this. You got to go back to the beginning and figure out what it is you want. Figure out what the vision is. Figure out your mindset of what's holding you back. Are you connected as a human? If you aren't sure your gifts, if you aren't sure who you are, you start here. You start with these bodies. And I wasn't going to talk about these bodies on day one because I don't know. I may have lost most of you. What is she even talking about? But now we know what 3 minutes of breath work on day one does. It grounds you. So now today, if you can take in, I'm not always me in every area of my life. And that incongruency is going to make me sick. The bigger the gap between physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual, the sicker you are. The sicker you are, the less likely you're going to achieve that dream. And I tell you what, we're all supposed to achieve the dream. We are all supposed to make the impact, create the freedom, and have a hell of a purpose so that we can give our gifts to the world. Otherwise, I'm not sure what we're doing. This doesn't mean that you suck. Like, let's not go there. That's victim mindset. If you're thinking like, oh my God, here I go again. I'm not good enough. No. Stop. Those are the 4,700 negative thoughts that you need to figure out how to retrain. But the ones that say, I don't know if I really like where I'm at right now. Or when we did the values work yesterday, I wasn't even sure if I can answer any of them. Or what I did answer didn't even feel right anymore. There. Go there. That's where we start. That's where we create the foundation. And that's where we can create that whatever you want to be in this kick-ass life. Maybe you don't know yet and you're 75 years old. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We were all given a set of gifts and a path that this life is meant to take steps to uncover, not to go hide when it's really uncomfortable. This isn't about me holding your hand and saying, okay, Jane, now you need to do this and now you need to do this. That's not me. Because If you're looking for external validation, then you're not tuning into your internal, your bodies. If you don't totally know your purpose and your gifts, it's okay. But don't ever dim the light on what makes you feel like you made a difference. So that day, those nights that you go to bed and you're like, oh my gosh, this was an awesome day. Write down what you did, what you said, how you felt. And I know some people have told me I haven't felt like that for, 20 or 30 years. I haven't felt great before I go to bed. Or, yeah, I've made a huge difference, but I'm not done. And this is where I'm going to go. This is where I'm going to pivot. This is where I need to step out of my comfort zone because my results have plateaued. Maybe you're running your own business and you're just kind of, I don't know, going through the motions. I don't do going through the motions that well because I believe there's a time to be content, but not because you don't want risk. Content because that's just the stage you know you're in. Content with not wanting risk is just, you're just dying. You're not growing, you're not living, you're not out of your comfort zone at all. So where's the one thing that you know in the purpose in the spiritual world that you're like, oof, I really want to do more of this. I had this spiritual incongruency when I became a doctor because, oh my gosh, I was a doctor and I thought I was pretty hot shit for a while. Rightfully so. I did a lot of work to get there. Okay. But in this identity shift, I had this Dr. Tiffany, and then I had this Tiffany, and then I had this Tiff. Like they were all three different persons. And I was different in all of them. So when I was Tiff, I maybe would act different with my friends, say different things, act differently than I would in my practice. Now, of course, some of that's going to happen, but I've pretty much melded most everything to be this human. So if there's incongruency in the human that you're being in the areas of your life, there's your sign. Start being aware of like, why can't I be this person in this environment? Do I need to change the environment? Do I need to change the people? Do I need to change what I'm doing? Do I need to change my approach? Do I need to listen to what everyone else is saying? Sometimes. But without knowing what your body's actually telling you, you're going to look for external validation. External validation is just people that want you to do what they want you to do because you've never set a boundary before. So when I realized that, man, I like putting these people together would be really awesome. Like, why can't I wear yoga pants and no shoes when I adjust? Yeah, I'm going to go do that. Why can't I do this when I'm with my friends? Why do I need to be quiet in these certain situations? Nope, not no more. We put them all together. That's when you know you are spiritually aligned with who you are. And the bigger the gap, the sicker you are. Ask any questions that you have right now. We have a few minutes left. So in this process, I want you to rate where you're at in all of those bodies. I want you to rate them. Even just a 1 through 4, or like this is a 5 out of 5. All 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Physical is a 5 out of 5. Emotional is this, mental is this, and spiritual is this. Where is your strongest? Where's your weakest? Now we have a roadmap. Every day, you can create your own little roadmap from every training that we do. You can do that on your own. Is it a lot of work? Yes. Is it worth it? Totally. I don't think anybody who has ever went through massive awareness and personal development and all of the things has ever said it wasn't worth it. when you are you, the external world doesn't matter as much. So if you have 5 circles of people around you, right? And your core circle is the 5 closest people to you. And I mean, when I say 5 closest, I mean like your people, your humans. Every layer beyond that is less connected. It's less your human, right? And now we get to social media and we're probably in the 5th layer. What happens in the 5th layer is social media and you trying to appease what everyone else thinks out there. It's the compare-itis. It's the needing everything your neighbor needs. It's the like, oh my gosh, I said this and they responded with this. Why do you care? If they're in the 5th circle, you should not care much beyond your 1st and 2nd circles. And I don't mean should not care as in you should be a butthole, but their opinion shouldn't matter what you do. We're not meant to please everyone to then dim our own light. That's not the deal. I'm just reading these here. This is a perfect question, and it's kind of long, but when someone tells me how I made a positive difference in their life and I didn't even try, I realize that sometimes I try to hide my gifts or dim my own light so it doesn't outshine someone else. But knowing I made a real difference in a meaningful way really makes my day. 2 things. Ready? I don't even know. I can't ever see on this. Is this Stacy? I want to say 2 things. Having a meaningful day, I want you to start the transition to you knowing that you made a meaningful impact on someone or something without them telling you. And when we look at outshining, we're judging them. So when we are afraid of being the biggest person in the room, when we are afraid of knowing the right answer, when we're afraid of shining our light too bright, we're just judging how everyone else is shining it. So if we were just to show up without judgment and without fear of recoil of them coming back, everyone has their own mirror that's reflected onto you. So if that person comes back and is like, wow, you were just a little too much last night, or this really, you told the truth on something. Somebody asked a question, you told the truth, and somebody took offense to it. That is their mirror. That's likely their problem. That doesn't mean we don't have awareness, of course. Did I say the wrong thing? Was it in the wrong environment? But people are typically put off by bold people, by confident people. That's why you find your circle of people who are that and who can see you for you and appreciate you for you. Does that make sense, Stacy? Really, really, really good question. Yeah, so people tell me how impactful I was and I didn't feel like I did anything special. It's the same thing. You know when you did something special because you should feel it. It doesn't matter that they tell you it was great. It doesn't matter at all what they even said, if they even acknowledged it. So how can you start to show up in your life without needing external validation? My husband is the ultimate best at this. We have spent many Christmases shopping for people within the school district who were struggling. I mean, everything from buying a van to buying furniture to helping them move in to cooking for them to getting gifts for the kids, everything. He never wanted our name on it, ever. And still to this day, He doesn't want to be associated. He doesn't want anyone to know when he did a good deed. Because he wants humanity to see that there's people like him in the world. He doesn't need it. He knows that moment, even if I bought coffee for somebody in the back of the line, even if it was a gift card that I gave to a police officer, he does this stuff all the time. And many times he's inconspicuous. They don't know him at all. It's just a thank you. And oh my gosh, my heart feels so good after doing that. Those two gals, that's the key. It has nothing to do with what anyone else suggests to be true or acknowledges that you did a good job. But this is the part of being with the right people, following the mentors and coaches ahead of you so that you can see like, oh, that's a possibility. That path is a possibility. Or, oh, I never even thought that that could be a thing and people would accept that. Or what do I actually need to fast forward through all of this junk to get here? Because that's where I want to go. That's why people work with people. That's why people follow people. That's why you read their books. That's why you listen to their podcasts, because they have a different perspective. Asking your friend with the same shitty mindset as yours is not going to give you a different perspective. It's going to get the same one. That doesn't mean you don't love your friend, but you're probably not going to ask them about X, Y, and Z. So I know this was deep. This is a forever process. It's a forever journey in being called into you and becoming you in every single area of your life so that every person around you knows who you is. Whether you're on the PTA, whether you're at a basketball game, whether you're leading your billion-dollar company, whether you're managing your 10 employees, whether you're the mom of your 5 kids, it doesn't matter. How you show up is how you show up. And that's the spiritual essence of you. The bigger the gap, the sicker you are. And the sicker you are from a very spiritual point of view, it doesn't mean that you have symptoms. It doesn't mean that you've been at the doctor. It doesn't mean that you're having difficulties with fertility. It doesn't mean that you have any of those symptoms, but you know in your heart and soul, you're disconnected. The longer you're disconnected, the more sick you are. The more sick you are, for the longer you're disconnected, you're going to have symptoms. Red, blinky, flashy lights that are going to tell you to stop. Let's not go there. If you're there, find somebody. Get help. Find somebody like me who practices like me wherever you're at. Find a mentor. Read different books. Start to get your head in a place of growth and expansion and connection, because it's totally possible. This is so good and exhausting. Yep. So after this is what I suggest. After you learn things like this and you go through it, and tomorrow is going to be, obviously it's all about comfort zones, and but it'll be a little bit more interactive. It won't be as deep from a spiritual standpoint, from a like, who am I standpoint. That's what anchors are. That's what intuition are, is like, who really are you? So leave your notes and go for a walk, do your work, whatever. If you want to look back at it tonight, fine, but not look back at it to think. Just allow everything to settle in. Tomorrow and Friday will be more stuff, right? So then you allow things to percolate and you continue to work on it. And then you decide how you want to continue to work on it. That's the bottom line. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for joining me. Holy Hannah, it's been an hour and 5 minutes. I love you all. I thank you for being brave. I thank you for showing up. 80% of success is showing up. Bye, guys.